حي على الفلاح.
Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, he approached Uthman and he suggested two things to Uthman. He first suggested to him, he said, "O Uthman, come with me to Ash-Sham so that I can protect you from the fitna." Uthman radiallahu anhu, he straight away rejected. "I will not take anything in place of being next to the Prophet ﷺ and to be buried in Medina. I'll do anything." The second suggestion was, Muawiyah, he said, "O Uthman, O Amir al-Mu'mineen, allow me to send from the armies of the Muslimin to come and to stay in Medina." He said, "No, I will not allow an army to come and to clash with the people of Medina." But Uthman radiallahu anhu, he rejected the offers and the suggestions of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan radiallahu anhu. He said, "These two things I am not able to do." The Muslim armies at that time were scattered everywhere. The military bases were in Al-Kufa, Al-Basra, in Egypt, in Ash-Sham, Northern Africa. These were the military bases. Medina, Uthman radiallahu anhu, he kept the military, the army bases away from Medina so that they don't come and they clutter up Medina and they make Medina busy. So Muawiyah, he said, "O Uthman, let me send you a force of my army, of the army that is in Ash-Sham, to protect you in Medina." He said, "No, I will not allow an army to come and to clash with the people of Medina." Muawiyah radiallahu anhu is related to Uthman, and he was a very trusted governor by Uthman and by Umar before him, and he understood the extent of the fitna. Uthman was not ignorant of what was taking place, and he was able to penetrate the ranks of those who were causing the fitna after they come to Medina. So Uthman radiallahu anhu, he had chosen two men, one from Bani Zuhra and one of them from Bani Makhzum, two known tribes that had been punished previously for acts that they have done. But the difference between them and those who were in the ranks of the fitan or the people of fitna was that they accepted the punishment. The troublemakers, they were punished for things that they had done and they still rejected. They said, "No, we shouldn't have been punished. We shouldn't have been done so and so. We shouldn't have been exiled." So these two men that Uthman radiallahu anhu, he sent them, he said, "Go and find out what they are up to and bring me news of them." When the conspirators saw them, when the people of fitna, they saw them, they told them what their aims were. They said, "Who is with you in the aim among the people of Medina?" They said, "Only 3 men." In Medina, there was only 3 men who were on the same side. They explained to the 2 men that were sent by Uthman the full plan. The full plan that they were going to do, what was going to happen, and that they were going to leave during the period of Hajj, and that they were going to enter and take Medina and besiege it. Why the time of Hajj? Because the time of Hajj, Medina was usually empty. Everyone would go to Hajj, so they chose that time. And when they leave their provinces in the clothing of Hajj or with the caravans of Hajj, so the people would think that they are Hujjaj, that they are going to Hajj, and then as soon as the caravans would stop in Medina, they would get out and they would remain in Medina and the caravans would continue to Hajj. And there's something very important to understand, that the people who had followed those who were spreading fitna, their intention wasn't as evil or as severe as those heads that were running the fitna. And Uthman radiallahu anhu, he was able to find out that plan. So he went to Al-Kufa and Al-Basra, Uthman radiallahu anhu, and he made speeches in both Al-Kufa and in Al-Basra. And he called out that the prayer is about to begin, and they were with him at the base of the minbar. The companions of the Prophet ﷺ came and surrounded them. He praised Allah, glorified Him, and told them what these people were up to, and that they were seeking to promote the lies about him in order to pave the way for rebellion. The two men who had spoken from the Sahaba, they stood up and they bore witness to what they told them. The Muslims inside the mosque said, "O Amir al-Mu'mineen," for they want to rebel against the Khalif and divide the Muslimin. But Uthman radiallahu anhu, he refused to call the call of the Sahaba to kill him because they were outwardly Muslims. And we will try to show them the right way as much as we can. This was the approach of Uthman radiallahu anhu. Now Uthman radiallahu anhu, he established the proof against the rebels. Yani Uthman radiallahu anhu, he entered into a dialogue with them. What do you have against me? Let me explain myself, or let me clear what you have against me. So here, there's a couple of points that is mentioned. They said that I offered the prayer in full when I traveled, and that the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Bakr and Umar, did not do that before me. This was one of the first points. The answer from Uthman was very simple, very easy. The claim that Uthman went against the Sunnah and went against the way of Abu Bakr and Umar, that when he went to Mecca, when he traveled to Mecca, especially during Hajj, he didn't offer traveler's prayer. He prayed the prayers completed at their times. Uthman radiallahu anhu, he did so, and even the main Sahaba who were there at that time, they didn't go against him. They prayed as he prayed. And when he was in Hajj, and it came time for Dhuhr and Asr, and then Maghrib and Isha, Uthman prayed on its time, and each prayer he prayed it full. 4 rak'at, 3, 4. The major companions, Abdullah bin Umar, Abdullah bin Abbas, and so forth, who were there, the knowledgeable companions, when Uthman did so, they prayed the prayer with him. They didn't reject what he was doing and go and pray on their own. No, he's the Khalifa, he's the Amir al-Mu'mineen, he's the Imam of Hajj, we follow him in what he does. And it's a matter of fiqh. They tried to make it a bigger issue than it was. The second point that they came against him is that there was an area that Umar radiallahu anhu took the booty of war, and he made it a grazing land for the camels, the sheep and the cattle of sadaqah, for them to graze freely in those lands. Now Uthman radiallahu anhu, he said that, or they said that I allocated grazing land for myself and caused hardship for the Muslimin and set aside a vast area of land for my camels. Uthman radiallahu anhu, he extended that land because the cattle of sadaqah increased and it was no longer sufficient enough to hold which was there. So Uthman, he increased it. They said he increased it for his own camels. So Uthman radiallahu anhu, he said, before my time, grazing land was allocated for the camels that were given in zakat. And the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Bakr and Umar, they all allocated land for grazing. I had to add to it because the number of camels given in zakat increased. So automatically you need more land. He said, I did not prevent the livestock of the poor Muslims from grazing on that land, and I never allocated it for my own livestock. He said, when I was appointed as Khalifa, I was one of the richest men when it came to camels and when it came to cattle. He says, now I only have 2 camels. Everything else was given for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They say that I kept only 1 copy of the Mus'hafs and burnt all the rest. They brought up this matter against him, and I united the people in reading 1 Mus'haf. But the Quran is indeed the word of Allah, which came from Allah, and it is all one. And all I did was unite the Muslimin on 1 Mus'haf, and we spoke about that previously. By doing that, I followed in the footsteps of Abu Bakr, who compiled the Quran. Is that not so? The Sahaba said, yes, by Allah. He said that they said that I employed young people and appointed youngsters as governors. But I have never appointed anyone but a man who was just and kind and of good character. The Messenger ﷺ appointed Usama ibn Zayd, when he was younger than those whom I appointed. And they spoke more harshly to the Messenger ﷺ than they spoke to me. Is that not so? The Sahaba said, by Allah, yes. They tried to say that Uthman radiallahu anhu appointed young people, and he overlooked the older Sahaba and the older people. The criteria for choosing was always, whether it was Abu Bakr, Umar or Uthman and Ali after him, the criteria of choosing was always who was best for the job. Doesn't matter their age, doesn't matter how old they were in Islam, doesn't matter how much knowledge they had. Who was more suitable for the job, he was given the job. So they accused Uthman of giving Abdullah bin Sa'd ibn Abi Sarh, whom he had promised to give him 1/5 of the booty of war. When the troops objected to what Uthman had said to give him, and they didn't allow it, Uthman didn't allow it. He didn't give him that 1/5 of the 5th. But they had thought that he did. So when the companions were there, he said, did I not do so? They said, yes. So that argument was also, there was no base to it. They said that I love my family and am generous to them. As for my love for my family, that did not make me biased towards them or make me support them in cases of injustice or mistreatment. Rather, they have duties like everyone else, and I take their dues from them. As for giving them, I gave to them from my own wealth, not from the wealth of the Muslimin. Because what they accused Uthman of, they said that he's giving his family the money of the Muslimin, meaning that he's stealing from the Muslimin and giving to his family. Uthman radiallahu anhu says no. So he says, I am approaching the end of my life and I have given my wealth to my family and relatives. Let the evildoers say what they say, by Allah, I did not take any wealth or surplus from any Muslim province. Uthman radiallahu anhu specifically didn't take any wages for his Khalifa. Uthman radiallahu anhu wasn't in need of the money and he didn't take it, radiallahu anhu. He says the only thing that came to Medina was al-khumus. And that khumus itself was not small. From the reasons of the fitna was the easy life that they became adapted to. Too much riches, too much wealth, too much money. Spoiled. Everything they wanted was in front of them. So Uthman radiallahu anhu, he said, by Allah, I did not take any penny or anything else from the booty of war. I only eat from my own wealth, and I give to my family from my own wealth. One thing you need to understand as well, very important, Uthman at this time, he was close to 85 years old. Towards the end of his life, khalas, he gave everything away for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They said that I gave the conquered land to certain men, and that the Muhajirin and the Ansar took part in conquering these lands. When I divided these lands amongst the conquerors, some of them settled there and some came back to their families in Medina, but that land remained in their position, and some sold the land and kept its price with them. And this was a way that was done in the lands that were opened. So every point that they brought forward against Uthman radiallahu anhu was a false claim. Did this disencourage the people of fitna? It didn't. It's like talking to a brick wall. So Muawiyah, he knew this, the companions, they knew this, that there's no point. But the point of this is to preserve the right of Uthman, to make sure that history records that Uthman radiallahu anhu cleared his name.